This is Introduction to Resume Writing, and in this section we will be covering what a resume is, the purposes of a resume, and some of the considerations that you need to have when you write your resume. So resume is really a French word that means summary, and the typical one-page resume provides a summary of your experiences and achievements, and it should be professionally present you in the best light possible. And that means that it should highlight every aspect of your skills and expertise that you have to a potential employer or someone who's going to be looking at your document. So when you think about the resume, really resume is all about your past experiences and really nothing about the future. So when you look at your past and present education achievements, your work experiences, your accomplishments, those are all reflected on your resume, and nothing about the future should be included on your resume. When you look at the purposes of resume, there are a few to highlight. Employment, obviously, scholarship, business loans, and other reasons we have that to have a resume. Employment, obviously, is when we send in a resume and hopefully we get a phone call in return. That is one of the reasons, one of the purposes of having a resume. Scholarship, we have a resume because it gets included in the application that you might have to a scholarship program in a school or in some other programs. Business loan, small business loans, usually as part of the application package, they require, the banks usually require a resume, and that gets included in the application package when we apply for a small business loan. And there are other reasons for having a resume, and that can be simply to be used in an introduction in a professional setting when you want to be introduced again professionally to others. Maybe you're applying to an organization, to a club. As part of that orientation, they may require us to have a resume. So let's look at some of the considerations about writing a resume. One thing to keep in mind is that resume is a very difficult document to write. Difficult document to write for a few reasons. The one reason is that it takes a lot of time and effort to put all the details on one page document. So that is a huge undertaking to create that perfect document. The fact that it's a very personal document also makes it a difficult document to write. Another thing is that this document has to be perfect, which means no grammar errors, no obvious errors in terms of the format and of the verbiage that you have. So in essence, writing a perfect document, obviously, as we know, is a difficult task. Also, writing a resume is a balancing act between art and science. The science part of it is that all the facts and figures and grammar and everything that is a must do and the stuff that we need to avoid has to be considered when we're writing a resume. The artistic part of it has to do with the layout, the style, the format of the page. And that is a very important consideration to make our document attractive. Typically, a recruiter sees the resume first. So always consider the fact that who is typically is the first person who looks at your resume. And that's a recruiter who is very busy and swamped on a daily basis with a lot of tasks. And as a result, the research shows that they typically have only about 2 to 9 seconds to look at a resume and decide whether or not to follow through with that resume, to maybe pick up the phone and call that candidate. So the fact that you have a very short time to impress someone with your document, with your resume, is a huge consideration when you write your resume. So that means that you have to have keywords in your resume to make sure that your resume gets picked up, whether digitally or just by way of the recruiter looking at your document. In terms of the content and the format, both are important because that combination makes your document attractive and readable and accurate for a recruiter to consider. One thing to consider is not to go, when you're writing your first resume, not to consider going to a blank sheet of paper and starting from scratch. There are good examples and templates for you to follow, and that will stop you from reinventing the wheel, and so you can get started sooner and at a better starting point. Resumes, another thing to consider is that resumes, they grow with you. As you grow in your career, as you advance in your career, you're going to get more experiences, more training, and as a result, those trainings and those skills, those new experiences, they need to be reflected on your resume. What that means that it's a good practice to update your resume once a year, and that way you're always going to have an updated resume for yourself. So in this section, we covered what a resume is and the purposes of a resume, and some of the considerations that you need to have about writing a resume.